Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss the documentary that just dropped called The Housewife and the Shah Shocker about Jen Shah from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Y'all, I found the documentary to be good. I didn't think that it was as extensive as Erika Jayne and Tom Girardi's documentary. Theirs was like a good 2 hours. This was only 45 minutes, but still pretty good nonetheless. So I'm going to quickly discuss what I found interesting in the doc. Everybody who spoke in this documentary all said the same thing, that when it came to understanding what Jen Shah did for a living, she could not answer. I will say I was surprised to find out that Jen said that she spent over $50,000 a month in her casting tape. And in her casting tape, they showed her, Sharif, and her youngest son on a private jet, and she's saying how she always flies private. And it's funny that Jen said that she spent $50,000 a month because Erika Jayne had said that she spent $40,000 a month, and look at the both of them. That's why it's best to keep your mouth shut about certain things. Nobody needs to know whether you spend $1, $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 a month. Just keep that between you, your spouse, and the good Lord, okay? But it shows that Jen was trying to set herself up as this super wealthy woman trying to get on this show. One of the most significant people in this documentary was Koa. Now, if you're watching this season of SLC, then you know that Koa is mentioned as the assistant that leaked some audio of Jen berating him and screaming at him and calling him everything but a child of God. They blur out his name in the episode that he's mentioned in, but that's the person that Jen was talking about when she met up with Lisa at Lisa's son's photo shoot. Koa says that he was her fashion designer and he met Jen in March of 2020. And his job was to create gorgeous, custom, one-of-a-kind pieces for Jen. I liked Koa a whole lot. I got my entire life when Koa revealed that a lot of Jen's furs and her statement pieces of jewelry were all leased. I said, you better give us the tea. Koa also reveals that Jen Shah's Porsche that we saw is not hers. And I also remember thinking, if Jen is as rich as she says she is, then how come it seemed to be their only luxury car in the garage? I'm just saying, if you have the kind of money to spend $50,000 a month, you would have multiple luxury cars. You would have a Porsche, a Range, a Benz, a Beamer. You guys get where I'm going with it. Look at Erika Jayne. Erika Jayne had Ranges, she had 4 Lamborghinis, and so on and so forth. So I always thought it was kind of strange that Jen only had that one car. And that's no shade. A Porsche is stunning. But if you have the money that you claim to have, you would have a fleet of luxury cars, not just one. I'm just saying, it's the little things that you notice. Or at least I noticed. And there were a few times last season where her aunt was always picking her up from events. And I always just said, I wonder if she doesn't have the Porsche for that day. Maybe the person who really owns the Porsche took it away and that's why her aunt has to pick her up. I just found it to be very strange. But I digress. Koa reveals that Jen was even worse off screen. He says that he was just exhausted dealing with Jen day in and day out, and it just got to be too much. He goes on to say that when Jen was screaming at him, that was before the first reunion. Koa maintains that he still has no idea who leaked the audio. He has no idea who recorded the audio of her screaming at him because there were just so many people working for her at the time. Koa also reveals that the vast majority of people on the Shah Squad weren't compensated. I could have told you that. I could look at all those assistants and see that she was not paying them. I said there is no way that Jen has the kind of money to be able to have 10 or 11 assistants on payroll on top of a glam squad. There's just no way. I didn't believe it for a minute. I always felt like half of those people were either dying to be on TV, so they did it for free for the notoriety, or they were family and friends. I did not believe that she had a whole staff on payroll like that. I just wasn't buying it. Koa goes on to say that he was last paid for his work in September of 2020 and how he ended up buying a one-way ticket back to Hawaii and he just left. Everybody who worked under Jen Shah is a lot nicer than me, because I wish somebody would scream at me and then also have the audacity not to pay me. Oh, please. I mean, the way I would have had Jen up in court before all this happened, I would have gotten my money. We're now introduced to Jen's aunt in this documentary. She goes on to say how what we see on the show is so twisted. And again, no, it's not. I mean, the producers can edit things to make somebody look a certain way, but at the end of the day, they can only edit what you give them. I think that Jen's aunt is in serious denial about how awful her niece truly is and has been. So anyhow, her aunt's going on about how Jen dealt with a lot of adversity and a lot of racism, only being 4 or 5 students of color when she was in school. And while that is unfortunate, that's no excuse to become just nasty and not doing business the correct way. We find out that this investigation has been going on since 2016, and now we meet a few of the victims. We meet a woman named Charlene Foster. She's 90 years old. She invested $30,000. I felt so bad for Charlene. I mean, this is a frail, old woman, and for anybody to sit there and run this lady's card up like this, I mean, that's just evil. And my heart really broke when they played the audio of all the telemarketers scheming to set her up and run her card monthly. I was like, y'all are just so sick. It should never be that deep that you want designer pieces that badly, where you have to scam and rob people out of their hard-earned money. And I felt really bad when Charlene said she had a feeling that something was wrong, but she felt like she was in too deep. So we find out from the authorities that the typical mark in these telemarketer schemes were usually elderly, people on fixed income or unemployment or disability. That was a typical mark. Next, we meet another victim named Penny. She's from Kansas, and her family live on a farm. In 2011, she said things got really rough for her family and they were scared that they might lose the farm. So she had put her sewing skills to use, like she was making blankets and quilts. So she says that she purchased a program for $97 a month that said that she could market her business on eBay and other social media sites. So because she purchased this program, her name ended up on a lead list. And do you know that she ended up being conned out of $29,000? And it was so sad because she said that they were in the hole so bad. She and her husband had to refinance their home to pay off all of their debts. And on top of that, she didn't sell any of her blankets or quilts. I was like, you know what? See, this is that stuff that will make you consider doing something crazy, because that's really sad to be scammed out of $29,000. A little bit of good news about Penny's situation. She was able to recoup $16,000 back of her money. She filed multiple complaints with her credit card companies, and she filed a complaint with the FTC. Then we're introduced to the last victim. Her name's Marie. She's a school teacher and she lives in Atlanta. She says that she ended up spending about $18,000 and she was able to recoup $8,000 back. She says that it was devastating finding out that she had been had. And on top of that, she's just like, would you do this to your own mother? Would you do this to your sister or your brother? Like, what was the purpose of scamming innocent people out of their money? We also find out that Jen was a director at a telemarketing company called Prosper. Prosper ended up being sued by an employee and they settled for an undisclosed amount. and then Jen ended up leaving Prosper and going to another telemarketing company called Thrive. We find out that Jen ended up leaving Thrive because she wasn't invited to some company event and she felt slighted. So that was the beginning of her doing her own thing. So as the documentary is winding down, they how Jen had to put up $250,000 of cold hard cash because her bond was set at that amount. And how she had to get the cash because she couldn't put a house up because she doesn't own any property, she's renting. Before the first season even premiered, y'all don't understand the amount of DMs I got that Jen was trying to hit up every single realtor and trying to get inside of a brand new chalet for free. She was trying to work out a deal that if she could live somewhere for 6 months while they were filming and then be out of there immediately after, but it would be great publicity for the owner, showcasing the house. Pretty much, Jen was scrambling to find a beautiful home to give off the appearance that she was a rich woman in Utah, when that was far from the truth. Ronald Richards, the attorney who was discussing Erica Jane's case, he is also in this documentary, and he discusses how Jen's assistant Stuart has now pled guilty and how he's admitted to hiding money and committing perjury. And on top of that, he's facing 70 years in prison. He goes on to say that if Stuart testifies against Jen Shah, this is going to be the most devastating blow for her. And there's a big part of me that feels that Stuart is most likely going to testify against her because, let's just keep it real, Stuart has a family of his own, and it's everybody for themselves at the end of the day. Ronald Richards also goes on to say that the Southern District of New York, when it comes to a case, the jury does not usually say not guilty. Like, that's a rare occurrence. So it seems like Jen and Stuart are going to be fighting an uphill battle because the chances of them walking away from this scot-free is slim to none. But at the same time, her being a celebrity is going to complicate things, so you never know. Jen needs to hope and pray that she gets a light sentence, especially seeing how Teresa Giudice went to jail, and she said that she had no idea what she was signing when she signed those documents. I think that the judge is probably going to want to make an example out of them because they are in the public eye. And I think that sometimes the fame and the celebrity can hurt you. Seeing Jen's antics on the show will probably be a detriment to her as well. I think it's very sad that a lot of people's lives have been altered and turned upside down because of some people who want to stunt and get a few designer pieces the illegal way. I mean, all in all, it's not worth it because, okay, you might have these things for a cute minute, but then you're going to be facing jail time for the rest of your life. And in Jen's case, I mean, like, what did you really have? You didn't even buy property with the money. And you were riding around in a borrowed Porsche per your former assistant. So it's like, girl, I mean, you just bought some bags and some shoes, but come to find out, even your furs and your jewelry was leased. So, like, what did you really do with the money? A mess. But I just thought that I would hop on here quickly and just give a quick synopsis and give some of my thoughts and commentary about how I felt about the documentary. But I thought it was pretty entertaining. It's a cute 45 minutes if you want to pass the time and just watch it. Not super groundbreaking information, but there was a nice amount of tea, you know, if you do want to watch. But y'all, that was my recap. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you all for watching. And as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bye.